Hello. We are going to talk all about your why and also the good employee story your brain is stuck in. Now that you have a clearer picture of what you are done with, I want to talk about what you actually want and also why your brain has had such a hard time letting you go after it. Because you probably have this picture, like I did, what you're so done with, and also what you truly want. And you see other moms on TikTok or YouTube or wherever, maybe you even know a few, and they are working from home. They are making money, and you're like, how do they do that? How are they making ends meet that way and actually being a present mom? So you know it's possible. People are showing you all the time, but your brain is just like, I don't know, that's not for us. Maybe that's not possible for us, right? Again, the inner demons are coming up. We are going to get and we're going to dive right into where this is coming from. So think about it. We grow up in a system that teaches us the same role over and over again. Yes, I'm getting deep into this. We are diving in fast. Think about it, especially if you're a teacher. You know this firsthand because this is where a lot of this is coming from for me too. Like everything is clicking and all these pieces are fitting together seamlessly, right? You are taught, and this doesn't mean as teachers we like to teach this way, but we are taught to sit down, be quiet, listen to directions, listen to instructions, and do the work, right? I know I loved doing group work. I love doing Socratic type of, you know, um, work with my kids and all of that, but that's not what they were trying to make me do, right? Another reason why I was like so done with the teaching like world and the education system. They were asking me to do things that just were not fitting into what I know is best for the kids. But as a system, that's what's being pushed, right? Sit down, shut up, do the work. Sit down, be quiet, here's your worksheet. And more teachers are going towards that too. I'm seeing it all the time. And part of it, is other factors like external factors, things like that. But that is what is slowly creeping into each classroom. And it's not the teacher's fault whatsoever. It's much bigger than that. And if you ask me, it's sort of planned out that way on purpose, right? So we're told that's what we're supposed to do to get by. That's what we're supposed to do a good job. And then we graduate. And then what happens? We go to find a job. And most likely that job is that same routine. It just looks a little different. And now we have a few more responsibilities. So it feels less like we're being told what to do, but we are. We're being told what to do, right? We're being told to come in, be quiet, sit down at your computer, do your work, and do what you're told, right? A worker bee. And who's telling us to do that? Our boss. And our boss has a boss. And that boss has a boss. And who is at the very top? The CEO, the entrepreneur, the business owner who started all of it, the person who began the company, who began the whole corporation, whoever it is you're working for, right? There is somebody at the top of that. And even in the education system, there is a ladder, and that ladder goes all the way up, and there is somebody sitting at the top, right? And the person at the top for most companies and corporations, that's the CEO, that's the entrepreneur, the person who started it, the person who stepped out of the box, who, took a leap and didn't look back, right? And I know for me in high school and stuff, I learned a little bit about who these people were as like, business owners, entrepreneurs, and we dove into it a little bit, but it was never really explained in a way that felt accessible. It was explained as like, yes, you can do this if you have a really great idea. Yes, you can do this if it's really different from what everyone else is doing. Like the person who started McDonald's, like the fast food chain, no one had done it before, right? Or, Steve Jobs, like you have to have something really out there, so special. like so different from what everyone else is doing. And that made me think like, oh, well, you can only be an entrepreneur if you've got a really cool product that you can make that no one's ever thought of before, or this like really out there idea that is just going to change the world. And I was like, other than that, like being a business owner is hard. Like you can't just go out and start a business, right? And if you ask me, the system is made that, you know, made it seem that way on purpose. They've painted that picture so beautifully to be so difficult on purpose. Because I consider myself a very educated person, very knowledgeable, well rounded. Like, I love to learn. I'm a Sagittarius rising, so I love to learn. And that is not something that I knew about. I have known some people who have started businesses. I live in a town where there's lots of small businesses, but most of them are product based, right? And, you know, my dad had a construction business, but that was when I was a baby, and he hasn't had that since, right? Um, Something he had an accident, right? Fine now. But anyway, I didn't know anybody personally who had started their own business. And I was like, how does that happen? That has to be something very daunting. That has to be something that's like so difficult to do. I'll tell you right now, the actual steps of setting up your own business, especially in this realm of like being a virtual assistant, an online service provider, not that difficult. There are certain steps you have to make sure you do to make sure everything is set up properly, but it is not as difficult as your brain is making it out to be. It is not this big step. Like my brain was like, no, it's got to be so hard, so much paperwork. You've got to apply to different things. You've got to have copyright. Like it has got to be legally like a nightmare to set up your own business, right? No, it is not. Not at all. And it blew my mind on how easy these steps were to actually set up your business. If you're wondering like what those steps are, that's the VA starter kit. The link is in the description here. It's free, grab it. I show you exactly where to click, like where you need to go, right? Super simple. Also taxes, things like that. Like I'm not a tax professional, but it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, right? And so honestly, it's not talked about enough because the CEOs, they want to stay the CEO, right? They want to stay very successful, and they want to have plenty of worker bees, plenty of cogs in their machine. And if you step out and start making your own money with your own business, you're no longer a cog in their machine. You're no longer their worker bee. You technically are not competing with Steve Jobs, but you're an entrepreneur just like they are. And you have just as much opportunity to be as successful as they are when you step out of line. That is my 2 cents on why it seems so outlandish and so difficult for your normal person to start their business. It's set up that way on purpose. Be the rebel. Be the person to step out of line, right? I was, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I was going to talk about your why in this drum as well, but I went on a little bit of a rant on the system because I could talk about that forever. Next video will be all about your why because that is so important as well.